Hiya guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro Magazines. And this time I'm going to be covering Imagine magazine from 1985. Now this is one of the things I've owned for the longest. While I have older books, I've bought them since, but I bought this off the shop shelves, as I will explain in a moment when we go over to have a look at the magazine itself. Now, if you'd like to join the conversation and have a look through some of these articles, I do share parts of the magazines with my Patreons. So if you check it out in the description down below and join, you can join the conversation and we can have a look through these things together and discuss how role-playing has changed over the decades since it came out. But anyway, let's have a look at Imagine magazine. So, this is Imagine magazine, issue number 29 from August 1985, and is the second role-playing thing I ever purchased. I bought an issue about a year earlier than this. I think it was about issue probably 17 from 1984. And then this. Because in my hometown, and the towns I visited often, as a 14-year-old as I was in 1985, they didn't sell Imagine magazine. But they did in my grandmother's town, which I would go and spend my summer holidays at every summer. So I picked up this in 1985, and I picked up a previous issue in 1984. Unfortunately, that one I kind of cut up, so I don't have as a object anymore, because I cut out the adventures and kept them with the different games they were for, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, years later, because I thought that was a more useful way of storing things. But did destroy the issue. I think I maybe have some parts of it, but I can't lay my hands on them immediately. Anyway, I bought this one in 1985 and later went on to buy Dungeons and Dragons and things when I found out there was a gaming shop in my hometown. But this is by TSR UK. So it's kind of like the British version of Dragon magazine or Dungeon magazine. And in many ways, I much prefer Imagine to I preferred either of those magazines. Dungeon and Dragon were fun magazines to have, but this, for being a fairly slim volume, we're talking 56 pages there, is absolutely packed with really good stuff. The cover artwork, beautiful. I cannot find who it's by. They don't credit it at all inside, but it's really nice. Inside, we've got a contents page. This issue features heavily around the cartographical society or service of novels by Bob Shaw, and taking that into Traveller and Star Frontiers. But there's a lot of other role-playing stuff in it. So we open up for Monsters and Treasure and other things, dealing out experience points in the AD&D game and some ideas for the level-headed. A nice little article giving you an idea how to hand out your experience points. In some groups, the amount of experience awarded for killing of monsters, the casting of spells, and other activities, compared to the more traditional way of handing it out for just the amount of treasure gathered. A really packed page selling off different things. Then we've got Pelinore. Well, Pelinore was a Dungeons & Dragons city, which they built up over many issues. So we can see this is covering Monument Square, and it's got different locations within it. Regulars at the inn, so different characters. Minden the Merchant's House, and different plot ideas in this area. And across the many issues of Imagine, they fleshed out the entire city and gave you a very detailed setting you could use. Very, very useful. Continuing through, illuminations, there's various pieces, and then we've got an interview with Bob Shaw. An author, did some fantastic science fiction novels, and we go, after some more adverts, into a short story by him, set on his exploration sort of stories. So, a starship out exploring the galaxy. And this story is a bit cliched, I think, because basically it comes down to the characters, because they're scientists, knowing the time of an eclipse and appearing to be gods. Outdoing the village wise man who's going to sacrifice them. And then we've got the Sarafand file. Now, what's not visible on camera is we suddenly changed from slightly glossy paper to a more matte paper, more like blueprints, because this is a pull-out section. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's set in the Bob Shaw sort of universe. Ship of Strangers series, I believe it's called. And talks about the cartographical service, you know, ships being out exploring the galaxy. Kind of Star Trek-like. We talk about that setting within Traveller, within Star Frontiers. We talk about the crew of the ship as they exist in the novels. Different skills to flesh out. Star Frontiers, we've got their stats for Traveller. We've got mission profiles. And then we've got information about the ship itself, the Sarafand. Its details in Traveller and Star Frontiers. Sort of nice little blueprints, including deck plans detailing the ship in absolutely great detail. It looks fantastic. I really, really like this. We've got the survey modules, so the small vehicles they take out across planetary surfaces. And then we've got some ideas for adventures. The Outcast, where a small creature infests. It's about the size of a cockroach, and it goes in your hairline and connects to your nervous system. Sort of a alien idea where somebody's being controlled. Sabotage. Somebody on board the ship's a saboteur. The Hal syndrome. The computer starts malfunctioning. But these scenarios are built up where you can roll on a d6 to see the reason behind them. So the computer's malfunctioning. Now, it might be it's been damaged by radiation. Its behaviour is a carelessly worded order to search the databanks. Its behaviour is down to manipulation by the service's headquarters. The crew are being subjected to a test. So all these scenarios can be very different for anybody who plays them. It's giving you different ideas. Tanzin 2, I've skipped a couple of pages. The bonus. So these are detailing out just short adventures. Those seeking ideas for further adventures look no further than Ship of Strangers, and the novel of Bob Shaw from which the Sarafand and the cartographical service are taken. It's only sort of 8 pages, but it's absolutely fabulous. This has stuck with me over years, and I've drawn from it. As I said, it was the second role-playing thing I had. So I did reread this many, many times. Going on further, we've got Taumet Codex, a ad&d brief encounter with a location and a new monster. Dispel Confusion, where they're laying out how different spells work, clarifying it. We've got reviews, so Cobra, not a role-playing game based on the Sylvester Stallone movie, but a tactical war game. The Star Trek 3 board game or tactical war game as well. Marvel Superheroes, Traveller Deneb Sector, Indiana Jones Judges Survival Pack. D&D Expert, Drums on Fire Mountain, Blade of Vengeance, the Conan RPG, the Book of Marvelous Magic, and my habit of cutting things out suffers here, because apparently I sent away to get a copy of Shadow of the Sand by mail order by filling out their form and cut out a section of my book, or my magazine. Got some reviews here, so movies which were out at the time: Return to Oz, She, Cat's Eye, Night of the Comet, Fletch, and a bunch of books: Gilgamesh the King, The Wasp Factory, Skeleton Crew, Books of Blood 4, 5 and 6, Ramsey Campbell's Incarnate, James Hermot's Domain, L. Ron Hubbard's Battlefield Earth, and a few others there. Got a letters page. Something I noticed on skimming through it was the amount of people writing from Wales. We've got somebody from Carmarthen Dufford there. Where else did I notice them? Brecon and Powys. So, Wales represent, not a lot of Scottish represent. Oh, sadly. Subscribe to Dragon Magazine, Amazing Stories, Strategy and Tactics Magazine. The Fan Scene, with various fanzines which are out. Drun Cole, Zine Arts. Brian Crease invites you to play Diplomacy. Continuing the article from earlier, we've got various illusionist spells, written by Carl Sargent, Mike Brunton, Jim Bambra, Phil Gallagher. So names which are very prominent because if you know the history of TSR UK, it then became Games Workshop. It was Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson who were TSR UK and then set up Games Workshop. So a number of the people that they worked with went on to work on Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Fantasy Battle. A page for the not-so-experienced adventurer, Stirge Corner. The final section of the interview with Bob Shaw. And then we've got a couple of cartoons. One which basically plays on the joke of seeing a massive Conan-like figure, but he is Conan the Autograph Hunter. And then we've got Auchters Axe. And inside we've got new from Games Workshop, Golden Heroes, and an advert for Conan on the back cover. Now, Imagine magazine, as I said, I absolutely adored. There's so much good inside these covers. The previous issue that I had a year earlier, I did cut up for the pages to use, because there was a fantastic castle in it, which I used again and again in my early ones. Whenever I needed to reach for castle blueprints with secret passages and all that, I reached for that article, so kept it inside my D&D box set. Very, very useful stuff. And this set up what I expected from games magazines. Now, while Dragon magazine and Dungeon and all that, I absolutely adored, you know, lots of fantastic material in those. When White Dwarf, I started picking up those, and they supported a lot of different different games, and Challenge magazine and White Wolf magazine, all brilliant. Although we did get later magazines like Arcane, which dealt with role-playing as a hobby without specifying on particular adventures and things, this was the kind of magazine I preferred over those. While I can explore role-playing as a hobby and developing my skills as a games master, I'd much rather have an external source of ideas that I can just grab for when I need to prepare something quickly. And these magazines were fantastic. Anyway, as usual, I've whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very, very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.